Now this week we have not one, but two versions of the brand new, all new 2021 Kia Sorento. You might be wondering, why would we have two versions of the all-new Sorento to review this week? Well, the reason is very simple. There is a lot of intrigue and interest in this all-new mid-size SUV from Kia. So what we have here, in fact, is a brand new rugged X-Line version and the ultra premium super deluxe SX. Now, as you can see, they are quite similar. Not identical, but quite similar. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to do our usual little walk around, and we'll try and establish to see which version is more interesting. Is it the X-Line or is it the SX? Stay with us as we discover together. Alright, so you've already gotten a good idea of what the front end looks like on the new 2021 Sorento, both the X-Line and the SX, so we'll just talk pricing very quickly. In the US, base price is $29,390 for the LX, $40,590 for the SX Prestige, which is the equivalent of our SX. In Canada, pricing is a little bit different. It starts at $33,995 for the LX Plus. One of the main differences is that all-wheel drive is standard in Canada. What do you get for $33,995? You get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, 8-inch display, heated seats, a bunch of very cool features, also seating for 7. Now, as we go around, let's focus on the X-Line for a second. What differentiates it from the SX? Well, as you can see, they have same wheels, different finish. You notice the differences in the front end. It's supposed to be a little bit more rugged, whatever. There's some badging technology going on here, I suppose. One cool aspect is this large roof rack, which is not installed on the SX. And then there's the rear end treatment also that changes. So pricing here is $39,495. Included in the price is also two things, very important. Seating for 6 with the second row captain seats, as well as this is the first model with which you can get the 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine as opposed to the naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. You also get the 20-inch wheels, as I just mentioned. Most of it is a visual package. Now, as we go over to the SX, which retails for $47,495, well, you get the leather seats, Bose audio, heads-up display, cooled front seats, 10.25-inch display, as well as a digital cluster and a few other elements. And I suppose now is a good time to do this. One of the elements that you don't get in the X-Line, in fact, I would say is the only thing missing in the X-Line, is the power hatch, which is relatively quick. Now, here you get an idea of what it looks like behind the third row. There isn't that much space. It's about 325 liters, if you will. And with the third row down, you'll see it better in the X-Line. It's about 1,100 liters of trunk space. Now, I also have this one set up to show you what it looks like in the third row. It's actually not that bad. I do fit there as long as the seat is slid all the way forward. There's a bunch of controls over there. Look at that for the HVAC, and there are USB ports absolutely everywhere. We'll just go right to the front. This also has rear heated seats. Now here you have an idea of the leather seats that you get in here. It's not entirely supple. It seems okay. I mean, this truck only has about 5,000 kilometers and it's already starting to crease, but there's some nice visual touches, physical touches as well. Slide aboard. There's your digital cluster. Here's your 10.25-inch display. Visually, you know, it's got a little bit more jazz, if you will. There are your cooled seats. If you look down here, all the drive modes and the heated steering wheel, the hill descent, everything is identical in the X-Line and this. There's another difference too between the X-Line, but I find that to be more of an annoyance than anything else. We'll shut it off. All right, so we're gonna go around to the X-Line right now. So as I said, no power hatch, but it's not that bad. There's your full 1,100 liters of trunk space. There's also room below the floor here, which can be very useful. Here's a better shot of the controls you get in the back. So everything here is more or less the same, in fact, the same as the SX. which is a little over $7,500 more. Now, before I do that, the new generation of the Sorento, the wheelbase is a little bit longer. I believe it's like 35 millimeters, which works out to about 1.5 inches. And the biggest difference, the most notable improvement, is here in the second row. Now, there is an impressive amount of room. I can go so far as to tell you, because the second row slides fore and aft, there's more legroom here for my kids than in the Chrysler Pacifica I just reviewed. Here's an idea of what the captain seats will give you as far as room between the seats to access the third row. You can see there's a little bit less, I don't know, decoration. It's less ornate, than in the SX, but seriously, you know. And the cloth seats, they're fantastic, the cloth seats. I find that they're just as comfortable as the leather seats in the SX. Slide on board, start it up. So you get your garden variety analog gauges, 4.2-inch display in the middle, which gives you absolutely everything you need. There's your 8-inch display that has absolutely everything. I have to say, however, Apple CarPlay has been letting me down on a regular basis in this X-Line. In the SX, it won't even connect to my phone. So that's, something's going on there. So here you have the non-cooled seats, but I think we'll survive. Here's the important stuff with all your drive modes. They're identical. You do have a heated steering wheel, which is a big bonus as far as I'm concerned. But the biggest bonus is that there is no massive sunroof. Storage is fantastic. In the doors right there. Storage, massive storage right here. There's one other element that I have almost forgotten that differentiates the SX, or the X-Line, from all the other models, and you can't really see it here. I'm going to try and demonstrate it as best as I can. No dirty thoughts, okay? So look, my fist fits quite easily between the tire and the wheel arch, okay, of the X-Line. And as we get to the SX, not quite as easily, or there's a little bit of rubbing. The X-Line in Canada is the only version that has a slightly increased ride height for better off-roading. So what it works out to is that this has like 8.2 inches of ground clearance, whereas this and all the other Sorentos have 6.9 inches in ground clearance. But the reality here, the surface is fairly flat. It looks more like a 1/2 inch or about 1 centimeter and change. Anyhow, so those are your visual interior and exterior differences. So now it's time to find out if they drive the same. Okay, so here's that one difference, the visual difference, which is a mechanical difference, and that's the difference in ride height between the X-Line with 8.2 inches of ground clearance and the SX and all other, in fact, Sorentos and their 6.9 inches of ground clearance. After a number of long minutes driving over the exact same roads in the exact same situations, conditions, and all that, it's quite difficult to notice any real differences. If I really absolutely boil it down to what seems not most obvious, but the element that comes up, that boils up to the surface, this feels, the X-Line, that's what I'm driving, the X-Line, I should mention that, feels a little bit softer. Look, it's the same tires, same wheels, same roads. So that kind of eliminates those elements as possible influencers. Maybe upon, braking and accelerating, there's a little bit more pitch, but the difference really is quite negligible, in fact. As I mentioned as well, both of these versions come standard. In fact, the X-Line is the first version that is equipped with the turbocharged 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, which is the same engine you'll find in, say, for example, the Sonata X-Line, that you'll find in the Genesis GV80, in a whole bunch of Hyundai Group models. And frankly, it's a fantastic engine. The amount of power, especially the torque, it's 311 pound-feet of torque from 1,700 RPM to 4,000 RPM. it just pulls and pulls. It feels really nice. 281 horsepower to go along with that at, I think it's 57 or 5800 RPM. So the thing is, compared to say the V6 that it replaces, it feels far more powerful and a little bit more responsive. Now, part of that, or one of the elements that has an influence on the responsiveness of the engine, are the drive modes. I found that Smart is the best compromise, where you get, well, you know, where the computer or the brain decides whether or not you need power, depending on how much throttle you give. For the most part, it's been quite good. The other element to go along with the standard all-wheel drive system, which is the same in the X-Line and the SX, is the 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. That has its ups and downs. The ups are when you're moving, the transmission shifts wonderfully. It snaps into action constantly. It's great down. Just now, I mean, again, I'm in Smart, so I noticed that I was heavier on the throttle. It gave me a very quick downshift. It felt really, really nice, very smooth. If it opens up, I will put the hammer down because there's a lot of traffic right now, but it's not opening up. Well, maybe right now. There we go. Yes. Thank you for letting me know that there's a car nearby. Transmission is wonderful for the most part. It does have a downside, and it was more evident in the SX than the X-Line. And the X-Line has about 1,000 kilometers more travel than this. So I have 4,500, and I think the SX had 5,400, give or take. Shutter. So it has start-stop technology, which is useful and has its merits, of course. But when you back off the brake pedal and you're about to apply throttle and the engine wakes up, in order to create forward creep, as we're all used to with automatic transmission, well, the clutch kind of slips and grabs. So there's a shuddering going on with the clutch engaging on the flywheel and all of that. And it's very noticeable and frankly annoying, and it does not bode well for longevity of said clutch. Or clutches, I should say, dual clutch transmission. So that's a little bit of an issue. You can always shift with the paddles, which it works quite well. There's nothing else to say there as far as that's concerned. Now, as far as steering is concerned, it's connected to the front wheels, because everything's going on. I like the brake pedal feel. There's a little bit of travel at the topmost part of the pedal. It works well. Very little to say there. Generally speaking, the new platform for the Sorento is very stiff. Ride quality is generally very good. It is tuned. The chassis itself is tuned for a little bit more of a sportier edge than, say, the Ford Edge. Well, why not? And a few other of its competitors. It can become a little bit jarring on the worst surfaces, which are fairly common in my area. But otherwise, easy to live with for the most part. To conclude, between the SX and the X-Line, it's a no-brainer. There's an $8,000 difference between the two. Some want the sunroof, I don't. Some want a power hatch, me. Others don't care. Cooled seats, whatever. Leather, this seems more durable and at least as comfortable, if not more so, in fact, than the leather seats. The level of equipment and kit is wonderful. I'm still having a problem with Apple CarPlay in this, and the SX, the same thing. These are early-ish production models, so perhaps that will improve with time. But in the meantime, look, the Sorento just gives you all kinds of value. The design is incredible. The space on the interior is really good. It's not as spacious overall than other three-row SUVs in the mid-size segment, but that torque feels really, really good. But it's a really, really impressive offering. However, given just the number of issues that both the SX and the X-Line are experiencing, I really can't suggest that anyone buy one of these. It's a short or long-term lease, maybe 3 years, max 4 years. In the segment, there are a number of other options. I mean, if you absolutely want 3 rows, CX9, I'm sorry, is interesting. I do like the Ascent quite a bit. Atlas, well, it's always on that borderline between you should but you really shouldn't. Otherwise, look, there's so many mid-size SUVs available. But if you want 3 rows, Highlander Hybrid. If you want a large-ish compact, there's always a RAV4. What else? Honda Passport is interesting too. Anyhow, I think you get the idea. This is all forward. Initial impressions, absolutely impressive, but not for the long run. That's it.